Hello everybody, hope you're all having a great day. Today we're going to be doing Lawn Care 101. Who doesn't want this gorgeous lawn right here? Of course we all do. So whether it's the front yard, the backyard, both side yards, whatever you're doing, you want a really pretty grass. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. It's actually pretty simple. So I'm going to kind of break it down and do it step by step, kind of how you can get the best lawn on the block. It's a very, very easy process and one that we've kind of perfected here in the Hampton Roads area. Now, if you're watching across the country, check out your local garden centers. They're going to know what the best grass is for your area and when to plant it and when to feed it and when to spray weed control on it and all the different things that you need to do for lawn care. Check out your local garden centers. But if you live in our neck of the woods, we've been doing it for over 75 years. So we definitely know how to grow the best lawn and how to do it easily and simply. We've really gotten this down to a pretty simple process. We can do everything that you possibly want to do, or we can keep it pretty simple. So I definitely recommend if you live in our area to come and check us out and see everything that we have to offer. So today we're going to be, and I'll start by saying, feel free to ask questions throughout this. I know typically lots of people have lots of questions when it comes to lawn care. So check out or feel free to add comments and let us know where you're watching from. But also, if you've got questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to ask them. If I don't get to them right away, I will get to them at the end. All right, so today we're going to be really talking about tall fescue. So whenever we talk about lawns, there's a plethora of different types of grasses that you can grow. And in the Hampton Roads area specifically, we can grow a lot of what we call, we're in a transition zone. So we can grow multiple different types of grasses, from fescue in the fall. You can even do some bluegrass. I don't recommend it. I'll talk about that a little bit. But you can do rye in the fall. And then in the summer, in the spring, late spring, summer time frame, you can do some of the summer grasses like Bermuda and zoysia and centipede and St. Augustine. There's so many different choices. Today we're going to be talking about tall fescue. As we approach that season, we feel like that's a very good topic. And this is the time to kind of invest in your lawn. And it's the fall season and it's a better time to do it. So tall fescue is what we're going to be talking about today. A couple things that I want to go over real quick before we really get into like the step-by-step process is talking about a couple of these individual things. So let's first talk about grass seed. Grass seed is very, very important that you get a good quality grass seed. So whenever you're looking at grass seeds, one is always check the label. So I'll go to the full screen here and show you a couple different types of tall fescue. So this is our tall fescue here, top choice. It's got, the garden guru, that's me. It's approved by me, so it's a really, really good grass seed. Whenever you buy a bag of grass seed, you want to check the label on the back, and there's this little white label here, and I know you can't see it, and I can try and get close, but I'll tell you, if it doesn't have this white label when you're buying a bag of grass seed, then you definitely don't want to get it. This is required, so it should be on every bag of grass seed that you see, but it's got some really, really, really important information on it. And whenever we're talking about fescue, it's really important to know what's in your grass seed. Because, remember I just mentioned bluegrass? Well, bluegrass in our area is really considered a weed. It's called poana. And so poana bluegrass will grow in the fall, look gorgeous, and then by the time mid to late spring hits, it's going to start to die. It also gets this little seed head on it, which creates a gray kind of color throughout your lawn. So poana is definitely not recommended. So here at McDonald Garden Center, we only recommend the best types of grass, and we know these grasses grow in this area because we go to Virginia Tech. They have a turf grass recommendation list that they produce every single year, and we make sure that our grasses in this mix are on that list. And why do we do that? Because they've been tested all over Virginia. And so we know they're going to do well. They're going to be drought resistant. They're going to be, disease and insect resistant. They're going to have deep root systems. So that's why we go to that list, because we know it's been grown in this area and tested. And it has to be tested multiple years before it can even end up on that list. So we've got a great grass seed this year and every year. But whenever you're buying grass seed, so if you don't live in our neck of the woods, check out that white label. It's very, very important. It has all the information. So I'm going to tell you what's in ours. So this is a tall fescue blend. So it's a blend of 3 different types of grasses. So the first thing is, why do we make a blend of 3 different grasses? Well, that's because if something happens to the grass in the future, one of those varieties maybe has an issue that we weren't aware of, and maybe it just pops up, then you don't lose your entire lawn. You'd only lose a third. It's a lot easier to recover from losing a third of your lawn to losing your entire lawn. So that's why we don't recommend using one type of fescue. So we've got 3 different varieties in here, and the first thing that's going to be there is the different varieties. So it's a very even ratio. It's 34% Valkyrie, 34% Screamer, 30% titanium. So it's got a very even ratio, not completely perfect like 33%, but very close. All very, very good types of tall fescue. Then after that, it'll tell you a couple other things. So it'll say other crop seed. This has 0% other crop seed. And then it's got weed seed, which is also 0%. So no weed seed, no crop seed, which means you're getting a pure seed. And then it's got inert matter of 0.99%. So what's inert matter? Inert matter is like dust. So basically there's going to be some other like little particles in there that are going to take up 0.99% of the bag of grass seed. So why do I bring this up? Because if you go look at different types of grass seed, what you're going to see a lot these days, especially these days, it's really become very popular, is they're going to put a coating on the seed. And why do they do that? Well, because they talk about how it can hold more moisture. It's got a little bit of fertilizer in it. I'll talk about why that's not really recommended. But really the most important thing is when you buy a 5-pound bag of grass seed, so when I go and buy a 5-pound bag of grass seed, I want to know that I'm getting 5 pounds. Or, in this instance, like this big bag, a 25-pound bag of grass seed. So in this 25-pound bag of grass seed, I'm getting 25 pounds of grass. Because typically, when you see a grass seed that has a coating on it, it's going to consume about 50% of that seed of that grass seed, that weight. So if you get a 5-pound bag of grass seed like this, and it's got a coating on it, then you're actually only getting 2.5 pounds of grass seed. So it's not going to go as far, and it's not really benefiting it. I mean, yeah, it'll hold a little bit more moisture close to the seed, and yeah, it'll give it a little bit of fertilizer, but I'm going to help you tackle those problems because I got tons of tips and tricks that'll help you deal with that. You want pure seed. I really recommend it. I think it's the best thing if you're going out and buying grass seed. What else is on this label? Well, it'll tell you the germination rate. It'll also tell you when it's been tested. So it's got a test date of it was tested in 5/20/23. So that means it was tested very, very recently. That was only about 2 months ago. So it's been tested very recently, and it's also got a sell-by date, and it's got a germination rate. Germination rate is very important too. You don't want something that's going to be in like the 80%. That means you're only getting 80% of the bag. Ours is 90%. So it's a really, really high germination rate. It's been tested recently. It's pure seed, and it's got 3 of the best types of fescue in it. And that's what you want when you're looking at grass seed, is to make sure that you're getting a pure seed, and that's the best thing that you can do. So I've gone on my rant about grass seed, I think, long enough. So we'll talk about lawn food, because this is the other thing that you're going to need. This is the time to feed your lawn. If you've ever heard of people trying to grow a grass seed or a fescue lawn specifically in the spring season, the lawn food is typically the problem, because fescue, a new grass, needs a lot of food, and so we want to supply a lot of food to it, and this is our lawn food plus iron. This is what we recommend, but really what you want is a lot of nitrogen. So if you put a lot of nitrogen down in the spring, have you ever heard somebody say, I burned my lawn, or that could burn your lawn? That's what nitrogen will do. It's going to force a grass to grow when it's getting too hot for it to grow, which is why we recommend doing this in the fall. So you want to get a good lawn food. That's a really important part of the kind of program here. So here I've got our lawn food. It's a really, really nice blend. It's high in nitrogen. It's also got some iron in it, so it'll green up if you're overseeding. And we'll talk a little bit about overseeding in new lawns as well. But that is our lawn food. There's also a lot of different lawn foods out there. There's organic lawn foods. There's a great supply. We've got a lot of different options for you. This is another one. This is a new lawn starter. The reason I show this one is because I always like to point out, what do these 3 numbers mean? So the first one is nitrogen. That's going to create green growth. The next one is phosphorus, so that's going to develop root system. So that's why this is a new lawn starter, because it's going to help promote a deeper root system. And then the last one is potassium, and that's going to create kind of an all-around protector. And you'll see that like in our winterizer. So I'll show you this one real quick. This is our winterizer fertilizer. This one is a 10-0-14, and it's really, really high in potassium because it's going to help protect it through the winter time frame when it gets really cold. So this is a great one for all lawns, summer lawns or cool season lawns. So we've got our winterizer, we've got lots of different types of lawn food. Get a good lawn food. So if you don't live in our neck of the woods, then you definitely want to get a good lawn food. Now here at McDonald Garden Center, we do kits. We do a couple different kits that help you in the fall to help get your grass established and get your grass growing. And then we've got one in the spring that helps control weeds. So here we've got these 2 kits. If you just do these 2 kits, then you're going to grow a great lawn. So in our kit, you get the big 25-pound bag of grass seed. You get this big nice bag of grass seed. And then you also get 2 bags of the Lawn Food Plus Iron, and I'll get to the reason of why you need 2 bags. So that's what you get with our kit here in the fall season to grow the best grass. Now, let's get into what we need to do to get started. So the first thing that I always ask customers when they come in and they're talking about lawns is, how much weeds do you have? How many weeds do you have in your lawn? Is your lawn 50% weeds or more? I think that's a very important thing, because if it's 50% weeds or more, I'm going to tell you to start from scratch, and it's going to save you money and it's going to save you time. Now, if you don't have a whole lot of weeds, then kind of, ignore me for a little bit of time, and we'll come back to the overseeding part here in a second. But if you've got 50% weeds or more in your lawn, you need to start from scratch. It's going to save you a ton of money. There are lots of products that will selectively kill these weeds, these dandelions, the clover, the henbit, all of the different weeds in your lawn, but they're more expensive, and they're going to take longer time frame before you can actually put down your grass seed. So if you use something that's going to kill everything, you usually can plant the next week. So it's a very, very easy, simple process. So if you have 50% weeds or more, guess what I'm going to tell you to do? I'm going to tell you to kill the grass. I'm going to tell you to kill it all because it's going to be easier to start from scratch, and trust me, it really is. So what you're going to want to get is, there's lots and lots of different options out there for weed killers that will kill pretty much everything. So kills all, hence the name, kills everything. So Kills All is one of my favorites. It's very easy to use. It works very, very well. Takes about 5 to 7 days to see results. You want to spray it when it's nice and dry outside. It works a little bit better, especially if the sun is out. No rain in the forecast for 3 to 4 hours, but it's a really easy product to use, Kills All, or if you've got Roundup laying around, then great option as well. Now, if you don't want to use Roundup or Kills All because of, some people have issues with Roundup, then Decimate is a new one. Decimate is an awesome one. This one, actually, you can plant grass seed the next day. Now, you're probably not going to do that. It takes some time to kill the grass, and we've got a couple other steps we need to do, but good to know. You can always kill one day, plant the next day if you needed to. That's how quickly this works through the system of the grass. Now, how do herbicides work like this? They work by getting the leaf wet and then it drying in the sun, and that's what kills it to the root system. We've also got organic weed killers. So you can get organic ones, you can get traditional methods, but basically I'm going to tell you to go and kill the entire lawn area because you've got 50% or weeds or more. Now, I also like to start as early as I possibly can. So if you can start in the August time frame, that's the best, because we really want to get seed down probably mid to late September, maybe like mid-October is pushing it a little bit, end of October is really, really pushing it. So somewhere between September 15th and October 15th is perfect timing. So why do I want you to start killing so early? Well, weeds are weeds because they seed very quickly. So when you kill a weed, it most likely has a seed on that plant somewhere. And so when you kill the weed, the seed falls back into the earth, and it takes a minute, and then it germinates and comes back. So I would actually like you to get 2 kills done. I'd like you to kill one, let those those weed seeds germinate. Once they germinate, then you'll get another kill on them. So that's the way to do it. Now, after you kill your grass, it's brown, everything's dead, you're ready to get kind of moving on to the next step, then a great solution is to mow it and bag it to lessen that thatch. We want seed to soil contact. I'm going to say that a lot. So we really want to get seed to soil contact. So I really want you to get down to the soil level as much as possible. So I recommend just taking the mower, dropping it down real low, putting the bagger on it, and bag it up. If you don't have a bagger, mow it really low and then spend a little bit of time with a leaf rake and just rake it up. But get as much of that out of there as you possibly can. And then what I like you to do is do a pH test. pH test is a great thing to do to know where your pH is. Now, this is a problem if you have a problem with your pH that we can solve in the future, so you don't have to be super, super worried about it right away. I can get a grass established in pretty much any pH. Fescue likes about a 6.5, which is ideal. 6.7, 6.5, 6.3, somewhere in that range is what Fescue really likes. So we really want to get it close to that. If you're in a 5.5, we can still get your grass growing. If you're in an 8, 8.5, we can still get your grass growing. Eventually, we want to get that pH right. Now, typically in our area, and in most areas, if you're up in the north a little bit, you might have a little bit more of an alkaline soil. But here in the Hampton Roads area, we have a very acidic soil. And so we're typically putting lime down to raise the pH. So there's a couple different things that you can do. One, pH test, very important. You can do it by yourself. We've got a little simple pH tester that you can always pick up. You can pick these up pretty much anywhere. You can pick them up online. You can come into McDonald Garden Center and get them. This is a great one because it's a moisture, light, and pH meter, so you can use it for a lot of different uses in and around the home to test your moisture level, your light level, and your pH. It gets you in the range. Now, if you are close to McDonald Garden Center, bring in a little bag of soil. So just take a little bit of a scoop of soil. You'd like to get about 3 or 4 inches down if at all possible. We don't need a ton. We don't need as big of a bag as this. We need probably 5 or 6 spoonfuls is about all we really need to get a good pH test. You can also mix it so you can get it from different parts of the yard and just get an average. We'll do up to 5 pH tests free for you, especially if you're a Garden Rewards customer. So you got to sign up for that to get free pH tests. But pH test is really important. Let's know what your pH is and let's correct it if it's bad, and if it's good, then you're all set. Now, why is pH important? pH is important because in the right pH range, it's going to get all the nutrients out of the soil and out of your lawn food. There's nothing worse than putting down lawn food and not getting the full benefits of that lawn food, because in that proper range, it can get 100% of the nutrients. If it's out of the range, you're losing 30, 40, 50% of the plant food that you're putting down. So it's really important that it's in the right range. Also, weeds typically grow in a more acidic soil. So if you have a lot of weeds, you probably have acidic soil. If you live in our neck of the woods and you got pine trees, oaks, maples, you've probably got acidic soil. It's natural, it's always naturally coming down here. So we got to kind of keep it up. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can add Magical, which, sorry, this is going to look a little bit like a weird bag, but Magical is an awesome product. Magical is calcium, but basically it'll raise your pH much, much faster. So Magical is a great way to raise your pH very quickly. So if you come in and your pH is a 5.5 and we want to boost it back up, get it up into that 6.5 range, then this will do the trick very, very quickly. You can also use pelletized lime. So pelletized lime is another great option. Pelletized lime takes longer. So it's going to take longer to change your pH, but it's going to last longer. So those are all things that we can work through if you come into the store. But pH is important because you're getting the most benefit out of your fertilizers and your plant foods when you're applying them. All right, so the next step is we've killed everything, right? Now this doesn't look like it's killed because if you're overseeding, you're back on track with us. So whether you're overseeding or you have killed your lawn and you're ready to do the next step, because you would think it's just put down your grass seed, right? Well, it depends on what your soil is like. We've done a pH test. We know what our soil is kind of like, but what I really, really recommend is compost. I can't tell you the benefits of applying a thin layer of compost. It really, really helps. What does it do? Well, it adds organic matter. It helps retain moisture. It also helps break up the soil and become less compacted. So a lot of people will aerate, a lot of people will dethatch. I actually don't recommend either one. The only time I ever recommend tilling is if you have a bunch of swales and hills and you really need to level it out. So you need to move a little bit of soil from one area to the other, then you need to till it all up, level it out. That's fine. If you do that, I will tell you, tilling is going to bring weed seeds that are too deep to germinate up to germination level. So after you till, you're typically going to get a lot of weeds. So if we've tilled, you might want to come back through with a weed killer and kill it all off again once you get that kind of crazy stuff growing. Because you'll get some prehistoric looking stuff growing in your yard if you till, because those weed seeds are too low to germinate and you just brought them up to germination level. So don't till if you don't have to. You don't necessarily need to aerate either. Now, a lot of people will aerate. If you do aerate, core aeration is the best. We don't want to walk around with those spikes on our shoes. That actually just compacts the soil more and pushes it down into the soil more. What core aeration does is pulls the plug out and lays it into the lawn. So that'll break down, work its way into the soil, and then that hole will allow the soil around it to fill it back in, therefore loosening your soil. However, I will tell you, the benefits of compost are tenfold of those two other things, because it'll naturally break down. It naturally decomposes. It's a nice warm bed for the grass seed to lay in. It'll make the grass seed germinate faster. So I definitely recommend putting down compost. If you've killed your lawn, spread a nice thin layer of compost. I'm talking a ½ inch. It doesn't have to be super thick. If you've got an established lawn and you're overseeding, then you want to put down a nice thin layer as well. The benefits are absolutely amazing. Organic matter is what our soil lacks. It stimulates soil microbes. It just makes the environment to grow grass so much better, because those nutrients have been zapped by some of the big trees that maybe you have in the area, or just the fact that organic matter hasn't been in the soil for so long. So it's a great way to do that. What you can do also is if you don't have the ability to spread compost throughout your yard, you can get humic acid. Now, humic acid is basically, the way that I describe it is it's a prehistoric compost. So it's basically a layer that they found. Now they've been able to make it into a liquid, so it makes it a lot easier to apply. To get the same benefits out of spreading compost, you would have to put this down 4 or 5 times a year. So it's a good benefit. It'll stimulate soil microbes. It'll kind of get that activity going again in your soil, but it's nowhere near the benefit of compost. But you can get a granulized product, you can get the liquid product, you can go out and apply it. So if you apply that once a year over the next 5 years, then your soil is going to become better. It's going to make your soil better. But if you've got the ability to put down compost, you can do that once every 2 to 3 years. The benefits will be amazing because organic matter is what our lawns especially, but even our soil and our flower beds and everything really lack. So now that we've killed our lawn, we've put down our compost, or we've mowed our grass a little bit low because we're ready to overseed and we've put down compost, then we're going to spread our seed. So spreading seed is a pretty simple process. It can get a little bit complicated. I think a lot of people, if I have, one thing that I've done in the past and that I see a lot is people put down too much. So I like to use the quarter test. So seed, irregular shape. It's not a ball. It's not, a perfect round shape. It's not going to come out of your spreader at a perfect ratio. So grass seed, because of its shape, naturally is going to spread at a different rate. So typically you're not going to find a whole lot of spreader settings out there for grass seed that are going to give you that right recommended rate. What I like to do is do 2 passes. So that's important. I'm going to go up and down, and then I'm going to go across the yard. And what that does is it gets a nice even mix. So I don't have the lines. If you just go up and down throughout your yard, then you're going to have an overlaying area where it's got thicker seed, and therefore you're going to get those bands of grass. What you want is go up and down and then back across over top of it. So what are we trying to accomplish here is when we spread it? Well, one, you can do it by poundage. So about 5 pounds on an overseed is going to do about 1,000 square feet. So on a new lawn, it's going to do about 500 square feet because we want double the amount of seeds on a new lawn. The best way that I can describe this is the quarter test. Think of about a quarter size, so just draw, a quarter size, shape in this soil, and you want about 5 seeds for an overseed and about 10 seeds for a new lawn in a quarter size area. So that's a really important thing is when you spread your seed, it's not a perfect shape. We can get you close with the spreader settings, but we're not going to be able to guarantee anything. You got to do a little bit of testing. Now don't worry, if you put down a little bit too much seed in an area, I got a trick for you. So after you've spread your seed, I'm going to definitely recommend that you take a leaf rake. So what I like to do is grab, just a regular metal tine rake like this, like my favorite expandable rake, and rake over the grass seed. What that does is it kind of settles the grass seed into the compost a little bit. It also will help you separate some areas where maybe clumps of grass seed have built up together. So it's a really good thing that you can do to just kind of gently pull a little bit of that compost over with just a metal leaf rake. It does really a nice job of being able to kind of keep that seed nice and even across the lawn. So when you spread your seed, I can't give you exact spreader settings. Everybody's got different spreaders, and grass seed is an irregular shape. So do the quarter test. 5 seeds for a overseed and 10 seeds for a new lawn under a quarter's width. So just kind of play with it a little bit, walk a couple feet, check it, test it, and then do your double passes. So on your first pass for a overseed, you want about 2 to 3 seeds underneath a quarter because you're going to go back over it again. If you're doing a new lawn, you want about 5 seeds underneath a quarter because you're going to do it twice, and then that'll equal 10. So do a little bit of math. A little bit of planning always goes a long way when we're doing gardening projects. So that's a really important step is we got to spread our seed. So now what do? We've spread our seed. The next thing we got to do is water. Water is super important. And I could talk for hours and hours about how to water your grass. It doesn't matter if you have an in-ground sprinkler or a sprinkler that you got to just move around. There's oscillating sprinklers, there's turret sprinklers. There's so many different types of sprinklers. It doesn't really matter. We just want to get adequate water to the soil to get that seed to germinate. So how do we do that? Well, I think I've got another trick for you, which is the tuna can test. I used to always call it the tuna can test. I don't know if people eat tuna anymore, but a tuna can is about 1 inch deep. You can use a Tupperware dish. It can be 3 inches, mark off about it where 1 inch is, something to collect water that you can put out there, and then you just time it. You don't have to do this every time. I just want you to do this the first time because every time we water, we want to put 1 inch of water down. So when we want to water an inch, we got a time to see how long it takes our sprinkler to put out an inch of water. So get something that collects water, mark off an inch, start your stopwatch, start your watering, and see how long it takes to fill up an inch of water. Because everybody's got different pressure, everybody's got different sprinklers, so you always want to check to see. Even if you've got an in-ground sprinkler system, I recommend doing this. You might have it set that you just always run it at that specific time, but it's really best to test it. Make sure you're getting an inch of water. So that's how you do it. That's how you do the tuna can test, and then you just got to move it around to different sections, or if you got an in-ground sprinkler system, you just got to run it for that amount of time each time. So really, really helpful tip there. Now, when do we water? We water in the morning, not in the evening. Dampness and darkness cause fungus. Not so much when we're getting our seed to germinate, but when our grass seed is growing. So I want you to get used to waking up a little bit early and getting your lawn watered. So you want to water an inch every single morning, because dampness and darkness cause fungus. Now, if you water an inch and we have fairly reasonable temperatures, 70, 75 degrees, 80 degrees in that range, then an inch of water should last you the whole day. Now, if you get home from work, or if you see at about 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock that it's a little bit dry, you can give it a light dusting of water. You can just take the hose out there and lightly dust it, but you really want it to go kind of dry by nightfall. So when we're talking about getting grass seed to germinate, it's the expansion and contraction. So that grass seed is going to absorb water. It's going to expand as it absorbs water. And then it's going to start to contract as it dries a little bit. And then it's going to expand when you water it again. It's that constant expansion and contraction that causes grass seed to germinate. And that's what's really important. So this is what it looks like when it starts to germinate. This is what we're all hoping for. What's germination time frame? It could be anywhere from 7 to 14 days. Usually 10 to 14 is what I tell people. Could be a little bit faster if you got compost. Could be a little bit faster if you've got a warmer temperature that you're starting your grass seed. But you want it to be cooler. Tall fescue likes cooler weather, so especially when it's a younger grass. So we want to make sure that we're kind of watching our weather forecast, and we're watering adequately so that we can get our grass seed to germinate. So really, really good way of doing it. All right, so now we've got our grass seed growing. Let's talk about, or let's go back to watering real quick. I got a couple other things I want to talk about when it comes to watering. We're watering in the morning. We're watering an inch every single time. We're watering every day until the grass germinates. Once the grass germinates, we're still going to water every day. So we're watering it every day for about 10 to 14 days. The grass seed germinates, and then we're going to water again for another week and a half, somewhere in that 10 to 14 day time frame again. And what that's doing is getting the grass seed established. It's a young grass. It doesn't have a deep root system, so we got to keep that grass seed growing. So we got to keep an inch of water on it for about another 10 days. And then we're going to start to cut the water back. I think this is really, really important. If we start cutting the water back a little bit, then the grass seed will start to develop a deeper root system. It's going to start to search for water. If you give it water every single day, then eventually, your watering system breaks, or you go out of town for a weekend, or something happens and it doesn't get the water. Well, the root system has stayed there because it hasn't had to go and search for water. So you want to stress out your grass a little bit and have that root system go deep and start digging in to find its own water source. So it's a really, really important thing there. Now, after your grass seed germinates and you started getting it growing like this, it's going to keep on growing. And you're going to want to get out there and mow it. You want to mow tall fescue. I always say tall fescue because I want people to know it's a tall grass. It likes to be tall. So you want to mow it right when it gets about to this 4-inch height. So when we get to 4-inch, we want to mow it to 3. And this is probably the only time that I'll ever mow it to 3. Typically, I always keep it at 4 inches, but it's a young grass. We need to get a mow on it. We need to get it established. And why do we want to mow it? Because I want you to feed it. So after we've done our first mow, then we're going to go and do our first feed. And that's where we're going to use our lawn food. It depends on what you're using. Of course, here at McDonald Garden Center, we like that lawn food plus iron. It's a great one to start your grass seed off with. Now, a lot of people ask the question, should I be putting down, when I spread my seed, should I be putting down a lawn food with it? Well, the reason that I don't recommend it is because you're really losing out on about a 10 to 14 day time frame of the plant food. So that plant food's getting watered because you're watering your grass seed, and it's not feeding anything. There's nothing actually growing. Now, if you were going to put anything down at this point, I might recommend that new lawn starter. That's a great option. You can put down the new lawn starter as you put down your grass seed, because then you've got that phosphorus available when that grass breaks, and that'll help it grow, but it's not a ton of nitrogen. So I don't typically recommend putting down the the lawn food with my grass seed. I typically say, hey, you're not feeding anything, so you might as well, and if you're overseeding, then it's even worse sometimes, because while you're waiting for your new seed to germinate, now you fed your existing lawn and it's growing really fast because it's loving all the lawn food, and now you've got a grass growing really fast and you're waiting for your other grass to grow and germinate. So I really recommend after that first mow. So we've mowed from 4 inches to 3 inches, and then we're gonna put down our first bag of lawn food. And that's how you get it established. Now it's gonna start growing. It's gonna start growing real fast. So don't forget to keep watering it. Watering is very, very important. Keep on watering. We wanna start cutting it off. We wanna start going to every other day, every third day, and then to the point where only watering once a week is where we wanna get. And the fall season is also a great time to establish a lawn because we get more rain typically. It's a cooler season. We don't have to water as aggressively because it's not as hot. So that's why we love to plant our tall fescue in the fall as well. So after we've kept watering, the grass is really, really looking great. Remember I mentioned 2 bags of lawn food? Well, 1 is going to go down probably somewhere around that month time frame after you planted your grass seed. So let's say we planted September 15th. The first one goes down October 15th. That's going to feed all the way until end of November about. So really end of November, I usually say December, we're going to feed it again. We're going to put another bag of lawn food. So that's why you need 2 bags of lawn food. So we're going to plant our grass seed, we're going to water it, it's going to germinate, we're going to mow, we're going to put our first bag of lawn food down, we're going to keep on watering, keep on enjoying it, getting excited, and then we're going to put our second bag of lawn food down around the December time frame. So I really like to say December. It's a great way to kind of get out there when you get a nice sunny day in December, get out there and just feed your lawn. And what that feed does is it's actually going to be your spring feed. Remember I mentioned at the beginning that you can burn your lawn? So what we want is all the nitrogen, or a majority of the nitrogen that we're putting down to feed our grass to get it established, we want a majority of it gone by the time summer hits, because that can burn your lawn. So we're going to give it a last feed of the nitrogen-rich fertilizer. We're going to put that last bag down around December. It's going to get stored in the root system because it's not going to grow a whole lot in the January, February timeframe. And then it's going to explode in the spring. So when we start getting those warm days in March and April, it's going to really start to take off. But by the time May sets in, it's going to be gone. The nitrogen is going to be gone, which is going to be perfect. That way we don't burn our lawn. So it's a really, really important thing that you do. Once you've done those couple of your feeds, you keep on mowing, you can now enjoy your lawn. So it's a great, easy, simple process. It's really easy to do. You get out there, enjoy your lawn with your family. It's a very simple thing that you can do. And we talked a little bit about weed control, so I'll mention that real quick. When you get into the spring time frame, you definitely, if you live in our neck of the woods, you definitely want to come and see us because we carry a great weed control kit that you get a bottle of weed-free zone. This kills weeds in cool temperatures. So even in the cool temperatures, as you start to see a couple weeds pop up, you want to tackle those. You want to get ahead of the game. And so you can kill it with weed-free zone. And then we carry this great product called Dimension that will prevent weeds in the landscape and in the lawn. So really, really good for the lawn and the landscape. Great product. It's a preventative and a curative. So if you start seeing weeds pop up, you can get them. So this is your topical. So this is going to be your emergent. So your pre-emergent. Sorry, post-emergent. So this is your post-emergent, and then the Dimension is your pre-emergent. So it's a kind of twofold process, so you get both of them. No lawn food, because remember, in the spring, we don't want to feed our lawn. Now let's say you've got a great lawn, and you're like, what do I do in the fall? Well, in the fall, you can still do this weed prevention kit. So we carry the weed prevention kit here in the fall, so if you're not seeding, because you can't put a pre-emergent down with seed. So you don't want to put a weed and feed down with your grass seed. It's going to prevent your seed from germinating. So there's a whole lot of different little tips and tricks in there. I know there's a lot of different information that you might have, or different, everybody's got different scenarios, right? Different types of soil, different types of shade, sun. This fescue, most fescues grow very, very well in some pretty shady areas. We also carry a shade mix. So we've got our shady mix as well. So you can get this is really designed for very, very dense shade grasses. So usually it's going to be like, yep, it's going to be a chewings fescue and a red fescue. Those are going to do better in the shady areas, but I'm talking dense shade. You get 2 to 3 hours of sunlight, you can do the sun mix, the tall fescue mix. That's going to work perfectly in those sunny areas all the way to pretty shady areas too. Because the leaves are going to fall off the trees, and then it's going to get sun all, late fall into winter, all through the winter and into early spring. So it's going to get plenty of sun. Now you might also say, why does he keep mentioning fall? Why is he talking about fall? Fall is a really important time to do this because it's the longest season before summer hits. So I always talk about that too because the summer is when fescue is going to struggle the most, especially in our neck of the woods. So when we start getting those 90, 95 degree days, then fescue is really going to struggle a little bit. And that's where I talk about tall fescue. It's a tall fescue, so let it get tall. If you can get it at 4 inches, mow it at 5, down to 4 inches, keep it at 4 inches. That's the best place for it to be because that will actually cool the root system. It naturally cools the root system, and tall fescue likes to be tall. So you got to keep it tall, and that's the best way to kind of get it through the summer. And then we'll fill in some holes in the fall. So that's a great time to focus on the grass and the seed and the plant and the lawn food in the fall. And then it's all about weed control spring and summer. So we've got it really simplified down to 2 kits. Now there's 100 million other things that you could probably do in between. There's lots and lots of different solutions and issues that you might run into, but we're here for you. We've been doing it for 75 years. So come and check us out here at McDonald Garden Center to get the best lawn. And I hope you all enjoyed this. I didn't see any questions, so hopefully I didn't turn them off or anything. I hope you all got a lot out of this. And if you've got questions, come and see us here at McDonald Garden Center. If you live in our neck of the woods, you definitely want to come and see us because we've got some great information and we can help you through all of your problems and get you on the right track to get this amazing lawn that you can enjoy with your friends and family. So I hope you all enjoy this. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.